Hello, and in today's video we are doing EFL predictions, reactions for the 2022 to 23 season. Yes, it's that time again. I'm going to be reviewing how I got on in the predictions that I did all the way back in August of 2022. Yes, it was in fact 25th of July, so quite a long time ago. But we'll be reviewing how I got on with my championship season predictions, and we'll also be rounding up the overall standings for the Gaffer.io, which is the EFL Championship fantasy football game. The standings of my mini league that was called, of course, Hornets Hive. As a Watford fan, as this account, Roberto the Hornet, is aptly named. The Hornet Hive, I set it up at the start of the championship season to see, and I really have to say thank you so much to all those who joined in the league. It was a fantastic number of people. So I'm going to read out the final standings in a bit. But yeah, as I say, smash a like on the video. It's a big one, this one. Whenever we predict the championship, it's always interesting to see how we end up getting on in the reaction video. So yeah, if you do like EFL Championship content and Watford FC content, which is, of course, my club, Watford FC, going to probably be in the championship for a few years to come with the way the club's going. But we'll get to that. So yeah, do smash a like on it and comment down below what were your predictions back in August and how did you get on with how the championship this season has panned out. So without further ado, before we get into my championship season reaction predictions, I'm going to look at the championship fantasy team. And game week 46 was the final game week of the season. Ultimately, I've had some good ranks in the past, like not terrible, but good enough. So if I just look back at last season, finished 1.8k, okay. The previous season, though, after that was amazing, 647th in the world. So I was going into this season hoping for like a top 1k finish, and I was just inside that with a game week rank of game week 46, 1.3k and 68 points. So very much will take that. I had Patterson for the last kind of few weeks of the season from Sunderland. He did all right. He got himself a clean sheet in that last game of the season. So, we can't complain. Zach Viner as well. He got a clean sheet. Shame about the booking, but, he popped up with a couple goals in previous game weeks. I mean, I think Viner, to be honest, was usually on the bench for the wrong weeks. So I think there was one occasion that he did score or something and he was on the bench. But this week, legend for my team. Scored in game week 40. So he's been an interesting own from Bristol City. Bristol defensively have not been great, but he's popped up with a few attacking contributions. Nice clean sheet there. West Brom not good in their game. It's got to be said. A bit of a shocker really, but Townsend did concede, so not great. We move on though to Pickering for Blackburn, who obviously had that thrilling game with Millwall. I was hoping, whatever situation here with Bradshaw and Pickering, that I'd win on one of them. I ended up losing with both because they managed to concede a lot of goals and Bradshaw didn't score. So not great for my Blackburn defender there, but, we move. Hedges as well, the same problem in that game. I mean, he's been a frustrating buy, I have to say, Hedges, since I brought him in. He's not really delivered. So I brought him back in game week 42 for, I think, Gustavo Hamer. And since then, obviously, Hamer's gone on to do really good things for Coventry the last few weeks of the season. Now, of course, scored in that league final playoff against Luton. And then, obviously, Luton getting promoted. And we'll go on to talk about that. But ultimately, yeah, that was not a great transfer, Hedges. Benched him for a few weeks. I mean, this week, yeah, all right, he got himself a performance bonus, but it's really nothing to shout home about. So, yeah, a bit of a stinker, that one. Ismaila Sarr as well. I mean, look, Sarr, I didn't actually have him previously to last week, but it was a romantic one because I thought, well, this is probably the last time we'll see Ismaila Sarr in a Watford shirt. So I'll just bring him in, see if he does anything. Of course, he didn't, and he was quite, once again, underwhelming. And that's a real problem for Watford. Ismaila Sarr, our record signing of about 40 million from Stade Rennais, and we're going to unfortunately get not as much money as we paid for him, so we're going to get a deficit, a loss on that transfer. So it's a shame, but it is what it is. It's just I think we ultimately should have sold him sooner, and he has had flashes, but he's just not been consistent enough, and unfortunately, he's not put in the kind of hard yards. It feels like for a lot of the games, and it's just he looks very kind of abject in some of his performances. Njai, I've got to say, all season has been epic, and since he's been in my team, he's been pretty good as well. A lovely little assist in the opening last day of the season, and also a performance bonus. I think he did actually do really well for me. Yeah, the previous week, 22 points was amazing. Shame I didn't captain him, but look, he has been epic this season for Sheffield United. 15 the week before that, 10 the week before that. So he's been absolutely fantastic, Njai. Probably one of my best players of the season. And he is going to be certainly one to watch out for in the Premier League next season, Iliman Njai. So yeah, he's done fantastically well. And then Diallo, again, brilliant talent. Very unlucky to not get promoted with Sunderland. I mean, I think that second game, they just kind of, the Luton atmosphere got on top of them because they looked so good against Luton in the first game at the Stadium of Light. And Diallo, that goal was an absolute howitzer. What a strike. And he's been decent for my team. I mean, look, he only came in a couple of weeks ago, I think. Or he's been since game week 43, so he has done really well for me actually. A few assists here and there, and a couple of contributions. So yeah, we'll take that absolutely. And then the front line, not as successful to be honest. The only real man I can thank is Ben Brereton Diaz. But Bradshaw, really a bit of a captaincy flop. I just fancied it because I looked at all the championship games. There wasn't that much to play for outside of the playoff race, and there was a couple of games, the Sunderland game against Preston and the Millwall game against Blackburn that actually had anything to play for. So I thought that Millwall-Blackburn game was so huge in the playoff picture. So I thought, Bradshaw, you're going to be up for it. You're going to be motivated. Turns out Brereton was the one to go for from that game because he had an absolute blinder. But yeah, Bradshaw has just been one of those ones. He's had good moments for me. I haven't had him for a long time. I bring him back. And, I took him out in game week 43, and then he started getting some goals. I took him out at the wrong time. But he has done well for me in parts. And other parts, he's been a bit of a letdown, like 1 pointer this week. So, yeah, he ends up on a sour note, unfortunately. But Ben Brereton Diaz, my guy, what a legend. I mean, what a nice goal. Such a great performance from him. And it was just a shame for him on a personal level that he couldn't get promoted because what a player he is. I mean, he's already going to be leaving Blackburn at the end of the season. But yeah, I didn't actually have Diaz for that long, and he didn't actually do that well for me up to before that week. So it's nice for him to end on a high in my team. And then finally, Victor Gyökeres, who I've had a lot of the season, to be honest. He's been a very nice points getter. He's had a fantastic season. I mean, it's got to be said. 13-pointer there. Very, very nice. He's been a bit up and down in my team personally. 27-pointer there. Decent. He's been pretty consistent though, like 19-pointer. These have been some absolutely fantastic hauls from the Coventry man, and I just feel very, very unlucky for him because he's done so well, and to not get promoted, I think Coventry will feel unfortunate there. So yeah, really good season for him, but just nothing unfortunately on the final day in their game. I mean, they got promoted. They got into the playoff places with that kind of result, but it just wasn't with Gyökeres scoring. But we still move on to the bench. And look, I benched the right players. I've had Bursic on my bench for ages, who's been out for a long time, not playing. So that was just kind of a set and forget goalkeeper of Patterson, really. I mean, I say set and forget. A few weeks before I got Patterson, I had an absolute nightmare because I brought in Muric. Because Fotheringham, the week before that, Fotheringham had got sent off in the game, I think it was against Burnley. And then I was like, okay, I need a new keeper. I bring in Muric thinking, oh yeah, he'll play. And instead, they ended up playing like, basically the other Burnley goalkeeper, I forget his name now. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. But you know the picture. It's very unlucky. So then I had to take out Muric again because he wasn't playing all of a sudden. But Patterson, to be honest, he's not been brilliant since he's been on my team, but he's just done the job. He's been a few points there, here and there, and it was nice to get the clean sheet on the last day of the season. McAtee was an annoying one because I was very tempted to play him, but then I just thought, oh well, Sheffield United are already safe; they'll be fine. They don't need to, really go for this one. That's why I'll bench McAtee, and he actually did end up outscoring both Hedges and Sarr and Bradshaw. But look, it is what it is, right? Tanner also got a clean sheet for Bristol City, so I didn't think they were necessarily going to get it, but they did. So another clean sheet on the bench, and then Colin didn't get anything, so I did well to bench him. So yeah, ultimately a red arrow, which is a shame to drop because we had a previous game week 45, a really nice game week rank there, 83 pointer, sorry, and just all down to that really nice haul from Townsend and Jai, but it just wasn't to be. However, though, as I say, really nice to finish in that top 1k, and our final ranking really. These are what we're looking at for the Hornet Hive division. So if you just look at how my season has gone as a whole, I mean, it's been a very up and down season. I've had a kind of good runs, bad runs, 3 green arrows in a row in this period, and then an amazing game week run of really 16 to 21. It was just incredible, going from 1.6k to 1.2k very, very quickly. So really nice period for me of the season. Then I had a bad one, 25 to 28, where I just really dropped like a stone. But then since then, I got into the top 1k and I was like, yes, I can do this. And I ended up finishing, just outside technically the top 1k. It did come up as a top 1k finish, but look, 1.037k, I can't complain with that. So look, that's how we ended up the season. Now we're going to show you what the standings were for my league. That was, of course, the Hornet Hive. Well done to Strands92. I think he's on Twitter as that. That's his handle. Langabola with an amazing total of 3,538 points. And he only won by a single point over Ollie Curran, Bacon and Bree. Great name, of course. So I'm assuming that's a Luton fan for their player Bree. But look, I'm real season from Langa. It's got to be said. Well done, mate. 69 points in the final week of the season. I mean, that Clark haul was painful because I had Clark earlier on in the season. He didn't do much for me and didn't own him, obviously, for that nice game against Preston. Interesting captain in Gyökeres as well. Didn't do anything, so a bit unlucky there, to be honest. But great season all round. And then you look at Bacon and Brie. I mean, he had a great week. 80 points, really nice. I mean, the -8 was ultimately what did it for him, but some amazing weeks. For this season, and a couple of great hauls. That Karoma one, that Pearson one, really, really nice stuff. And as I mentioned, Hamer, getting all the points, 10 points in the final day was superb. So yeah, fair play to you two. There's a bit of a bacon theme going on really with the top three, with empty bacon, full of ham. Love the team name, it's brilliant. But ultimately, yeah. So that's how the season ends. I didn't actually do too well in my own league, which is a bit of embarrassing, really. I say not too well. It's still a decent rank. Like, I'm happy enough with 1k. But look, finishing on 2,925 overall points, and I finished in 26th in the league with a nice number of people joining the league. So again, thanks for joining. Your likes of Tristan Knight, your likes of FPL Callum 99. It's great to see all these new people. In my mini league, and yeah, to finish 26th out of 44, it is what it is. It's not ideal, but it's mid-table ish, so we'll take it. And then in terms of the other leagues I was in, I mean, look, finishing 4th in the Ultimate Championship, that's pretty nice. Not the easiest of leagues, this one. So we'll take that absolutely. And the other thing I've got to say is I was in the legendary Fantasy Football Scout Community League, and 87th place, when so many people join that league, I'll take that. Top 100, decent enough. So those are my standings and how it looked really for the overall totals for the EFL Championship Football fantasy game. But now it's time to talk about the big one. That is, of course, the Championship season predictions. So I'm going to play out the video and show you what I did this season in my predictions, and let's react to it as we go along. So let's see what I said.
So first of all, we're going for 24th place, and in here I'm putting a team that unfortunately for them usually get relegated in the Championship, and that is Rotherham. Now, Rotherham last season did get promoted at the first time of asking. Fair enough, Paul Warne, you got to rate that from him, but at the end of the day, the summer transfer market is difficult. And there's a big task for them to basically keep punching above their weight. I think they finish bottom. Sorry, Rotherham fans. Nothing personal.
Okay, this one's not ideal, to be honest, because Rotherham didn't just stay up, but they stayed up with a game to spare. I mean, they stayed up with that quite miraculous win, really. I did not see it coming against Middlesbrough. So, fair play to Rotherham. Like, that was impressive. I mean, you look at their season, they had a bit of up and down. Definitely it was a season that they wouldn't have loved to be in that relegation fight. But look, they did enough, and that's ultimately commendable for the position they were in. I mean, some of their players still, they're great. They're great assets. Domingos Quina was an interesting one. Obviously, a couple seasons ago. This season he was at Barnsley, and he did a decent job, I think. But it was just players like Jordan Hugill and Tarek Fosu, and the kind of legends of Rotherham. When you think about some of their key players like Richard Wood, and there was a few kind of interesting surprise additions. The signing of Sean Morrison I thought was a good shout. So yeah, ultimately they weren't brilliant, but they did enough, and they'll be absolutely taking that and bite the hand off it. So to finish safely, away from the relegation zone, when you look at it, Reading obviously that points deduction did come into play, but ultimately it was still a great season for Rotherham. So yeah, fair play. I didn't get this one right. I did have them bottom, so I was actually out by 5 places here. So yeah, I've got to apologise to the Rotherham fans, but we move on to the next position.
23rd spot now, and this is the tough one, I think, between 3 clubs, but the team I'm going for is Reading.
Now, I don't actually mind this because I was only 1 place out, and I did think that Reading were going to get relegated, so that's a correct relegation team already this season for my predictions. We'll take that, but look, ultimately, I did think that Reading, off the pitch, there was a lot of problems there, and ultimately that kind of filtrated onto the pitch as well, and it just led to a chaotic season. I mean, look, their problems with paying players. You look at the teams like Wigan that had those issues. With Reading, it was just so much was going on, and Paul Ince, just struggled to kind of get the players winning games. I mean, it was amazing how at the start of the season they looked like a decent team. They were quite near the top at points, and then they just fell away. And ultimately, it was a season to forget for Reading. They're a big club really when you think about it, and they shouldn't really be a League One club. But that is the reality of the situation. They've got to face up to that. They've got to sort what's going on off the pitch, because it's not nice. But it's just a bit of a bad situation for the Royals right now. So yeah, not ideal at all. But for my predictions, it was a good prediction. Ultimately, you look at it and think, well, Reading could have easily finished in 23rd, like I predicted them, if it wasn't for that goal difference. But it was 22nd on the goal difference. And look, if they had never got those points deductions, maybe we're looking at a Reading team that stay up. But they just had a few problems. And when I look at their squad, do I really think they should be a team getting relegated? Not particularly. Like, they have a lot of amazing talents like Lucas João and Ovi Ajaria, and they have missed since he's left. I think Eberechi Eze has been a hard player to fill the void of, but ultimately they've still got good enough championship players for this level. Like Tom Ince had a great season. Andy Carroll, maybe that was a bit of a experiment too far. I'm not sure, just at his stage of his career. Jeff Hendrick was all right as well. So it was kind of one of those things. They had decent enough players, but it just didn't quite go together as a team. And they'll really be thinking they've got to bounce back at the first time of asking in League One. But yeah, not a great season for them. However, for the prediction's sake, we will take that absolutely. 1 place out. We move on to the next team.
Now, the reason I say this is Reading last season were pretty diabolical, and they're just really fallen off a cliff since the times of Paunovic. So yeah, it's not great. I'm not going to lie for Reading, but let's see what happens. Ultimately, I'm here to be convinced wrong, but with Paul Ince coming in, I don't know. He's got to defy the odds to keep them up. And Shane Long's a good signing. Jeff Hendrick as well, but I'm just not too confident on Reading.
Yeah, look, Shane Long as well. Like, it's an interesting signing, but it kind of speaks of where Reading are at. I'm afraid to say, where they're signing players that are not at their peak really. They're kind of ex good Premier League players, and it comes to the point where you think, it's getting a bit desperate for Reading. So I wish them well. I hope they do well in the League One season next year, but I just don't know how they're gonna get back that kind of morale around the club. But we will see.
I'm afraid 23rd spot for them. In 22nd though, we're going to go for it. Wigan. Now, Wigan could stay up, but I just get this feeling that despite what's going on behind the scenes at Birmingham with the club owners, I just feel that Wigan are just struggling. And, only 2 seasons ago, they had that, deduction that led them into administration. So there is still reports of more cash flow problems, and the owners have denied it. But, no new signings by late July. I just feel like that's always going to be a problem. So, Wigan, I'm sorry, but you are going to be the 3rd team relegated.
I'll absolutely take this. To get 2 out of the 3 relegated teams bang on the money, we will love that. I mean, look, they're not in the right order, but potato, So, yeah, I had Wigan down as 22nd, 2 places out, but look, ultimately, I did see what was going off the pitch and what was happening there as part of the problem. And unfortunately, that, as I mentioned with the earlier about paying players, that was ultimately a big issue. And when they got in Malone, I thought, oh, that's an interesting shout. He might steer them to a bit of success. It's quite a sentimental pick. And look, Sean Malone, to be fair, at points I thought this guy is punching above his weight. He's doing okay, but look, I think it just ultimately it all came to kind of stop quite soon, and it looked like for a long time Wigan were just kind of hopeless. So I feel for Wigan because they're not a bad team. They won the FA Cup not that long ago. Only about 10 years. So look, ultimately it's just not gone right for them this season, and I think they're gonna try and reset, recuperate, and really refresh themselves going into 23 to 24. But yeah, not great for Wigan. It's got to be said. That goal difference of minus 27 is never nice to see. But let's move on. So far, 2 out of 3, but not in the right places.
Alongside Reading and Rotherham in 22nd. Now, 21st, Birmingham. Now, I admit, Birmingham could get relegated this season. Part of me thinks I don't want them to because Troy Deeney, his boyhood club, it would be a sad thing to see. But also, John Eustace, former Watford player, of course. He's their 9th manager since 2016. I mean, that is quite a lot. I can't lie. But they've just got to stabilise themselves. They're still being undermined by ongoing speculation over the future and ownership of the club. But it's just the squad investment. It's been very, very minimal. And obviously even at St Andrews, there's incomplete major repair work. So there's been a lot of Birmingham kind of turmoil and tension. But I don't know. I think the odds are going to be against everyone, and it's going to be a big upset. But Birmingham are going to stay up just to pip Wigan to that safety spot.
Interesting, this one. I did get it right. I mean, obviously, Birmingham did have points in the season where you thought they're goners. They're absolutely in the mud. And I did mention the kind of off the pitch problems with Birmingham and the ownership as well. That didn't, unfortunately, end this season. It carried on and it really got quite ugly. But look, ultimately, Birmingham, to be honest, under John Eustace, former Watford player, of course, I think he did well, to be honest. Like, there's no bias in that. It's just, you look at the kind of resources he had, it wasn't amazing, but he did well to steady the ship and did enough to keep them up. I mean, as I said with Rotherham, Rotherham looked safe fairly comfortably, the kind of game to go. Birmingham was even better than that. So, Birmingham, well done, considering the kind of issues they faced to kind of recover from that. And, it's a sad kind of ending to the season for Deeney. I mean, I say that because going to his boyhood club, he would have probably wanted to be there for more than one season, but it just didn't quite work out. With Deeney, unfortunately, there. So he's leaving at the end of the season. But as I say, they got in a couple good players, like your likes of Chong. He had a great season, as did Hannibal Medbury. Some nice signings there from Manchester United. And certainly Joe Bellingham has got a lot of ability and potential to just do as well as his brother, really. So look, it was a interesting season from Birmingham. Certainly a few ups and downs, more downs, so to speak. I mean, I think John Ruddy, when he's your kind of main goalkeeper for a lot of the season, it does spell kind of volumes of where the kind of goalkeeping transfers are at. But look, ultimately, I look at that team. I think there's a few good, little decent players in there. So they kind of had enough of those to get them through the season. And ultimately, I think if they just kind of restructure a little bit next season, they can push on and try and make sure they're not in a relegation battle next season. But look, it's decent enough for Birmingham and decent enough for me. I did end up saying 21st. So look, ultimately, I was 4 places out. But look, we don't mind that. Let's move on to 20th.
But moving on to 20th now, and this is where I'm going to put Blackpool. Now, Blackpool last season were fair enough. I thought they were going down. I genuinely did. But they did enough. They did enough, and they just about steered clear. But I think second time around, they'll probably find it more tricky. I mean, Michael Appleton, good manager, obviously came from Lincoln, and he's back for his second spell in charge of the club after Neil Critchley left to go off to be assistant at Aston Villa.
How weird is that? Now, Neil Critchley back at Blackpool. I mean, it's funny how football can go full circle like that. But look, ultimately, right, this didn't go well as a prediction. I thought they would stay up. I thought they would have enough in the tank, to be honest. Because even with Neil Critchley leaving, I thought, Appleton will be able to just kind of get the fans on the side. It will go well and it will be a success. But it really didn't go to plan for Michael Appleton, and they had to kind of get in a new manager. Mick McCarthy came in. Again, didn't really work. That situation, did it? It just kind of looked pretty dodgy. And then at the end, they put in a couple of good performances. They got a couple of wins. But by then, it was just too little too late under the late manager that they had. So, look, Blackpool, bit of a shocker of a season, to be honest. And it's just a shame that they had to kind of, even with those, no points deductions like Reading and Wigan got, they still just didn't get enough victories. I mean, 11 wins all season is just not enough, really, to stay up. And you look at kind of that goal difference as well. When you consider the fact that they've conceded 72 goals, that's just too many, and not scoring enough. I mean, I look at that and think, well, maybe QPR, they got lucky to stay up, but ultimately it was the lack of wins and 24 defeats across the season is pretty condemning. So Blackpool, unfortunately, didn't get that one. But look, I did say 20th, so I'm only 3 places out there. That's not too shabby at all.
With Steven Gerrard, but Appleton, he's been forced to be quite patient in the market. So I still feel it'll be a difficult season for Blackpool, but I think they're just about going to do enough, and they will take that, to be honest, survival in that 20th spot. Moving on to 19th now, and I think it's between 2 teams, but I'm going to go Hull City. Now, Hull, I just don't know about Hull. Like, they do worry me because, I mean, Lewis Potter's a big miss, of course, but I mean, they'll take the 17.1 million because, they've got some good players. But, I don't know. I just think they only survived just about. And he has got Premier League aspirations, Akun İlkalay, their new Turkish owner. But, I don't know. Shota Arvel Ladstay, I've never heard of him. So, maybe they can go for playoffs. But I think this is going to be a tricky season for Hull, in my opinion. 18th spot.
So look, basically, I need to kind of explain this. So I think I just said before, bear with a sec.
Just about, and he has got Premier League aspirations, Akun, spot. Moving on to 19th now, and I think it's between 2 teams, but I'm going to go Hull City now.
Yeah, so basically I've confused this in my video, so I do apologise for this. At the time, I said 19th Hull, right? And then at the end of that talk, I said 18th Hull. So I kind of got myself a little bit confused there. So apologies for that. What we just want to do is just clarify what we meant by that. So basically, when I kind of confirmed my season predictions quite near the start of the new season, I kind of confirmed that. So my final prediction was to have Hull in 19th. So just kind of ignore that last comment, basically, about Hull finishing 18th. So my 19th pick was Hull. And so for that reason, It's not the worst prediction. It's not ideal either, though. They did ultimately finish 15th. So I did think they'd struggle a little bit more than they did. But look, it wasn't still a great season for Hull, and they had points. They had points where they were banging in the goals through Estupinian. He was a great signing, Oscar Estupinian. And also, fair play. It was a bit painful to see, but Ozan Tufan, since he came in from Watford, after he had a pretty poor 21 to 22 season, suddenly he goes to Hull and he's getting quite a few goals. So he was a good addition. And look, ultimately, they had points in the season where they were doing really, really well, Hull. So they were punching above their weight a little bit at times. And then they had other times where they were just not scoring goals. And they had so many 0-0s across the season to the point where you thought, oh, they're not scoring enough to kind of stay up. But they did enough to win the games that they needed to. And they were just kind of consistent. 14 wins, 16 draws, 16 defeats. It was kind of like middle of the road, it'll do sort of thing. So kind of languishing in mid-table, but a little bit lower than that. So ultimately, they'll take that. They will take that at all for sure. Because I think when they kind of got promoted quite recently, they thought they just want to have a stable season. But look, they'll want to push on for playoffs in next season and try and get away from that mid-table mediocrity. So still a good season, but not bad for my predictions. 4 places out. Let's see what else I said.
Now, Hull, they'll take the 17.1 million because, they've got some good players, but I don't know. I just think they only survived just about, and he has got Premier League aspirations, Akun İlkay, their new Turkish owner, but
apologies for this.
I don't know, Shota Arvel Ladstay, I've never heard of him, so maybe they can go for playoffs, but I think this is going to be a tricky season for Hull, in my opinion. 18th spot.
19th.
Now, moving into 17th, did I say 18th? I meant 19th, I think. Yeah, I meant 19th, sorry. Moving into 18th spot, we're going to go for Sunderland. Now, Sunderland, people will say they're going to push for the playoffs, but for me, I think it's a bit of progress under Alex Neil, for sure. Patrick Roberts is a good signing. They did well to get out of League One, but they've not done a lot of transfer activity. I think mid-table is going to be probably realistic, but maybe their defence will just mean they're a bit closer to relegation than mid-table, but they'll be enough to stay up, I think. So, yeah, that's what we're going to go for.
Okay, I've really had a stinker with this one. I can't lie. Sorry, Sunderland fans. I did really underestimate. I did not think that from League One up to the Championship this season that they would suddenly then have a promotion push through the playoffs. It was fantastic. Like, what a job Tony Mowbray did. I mean, he was a fantastic manager at Blackburn, but did I think he'd do it all in one season? It was just incredible. And, you look back at some of the Sunderland goals that were scored. That one up at Reading, I think it was Clark that scored that one. Some fantastic team goals and a fantastic season. The acquisition of Diallo, who I talked about earlier, he was fantastic when Sunderland needed it. And Patrick Roberts as well, who, has often been sidelined for injury, but he had some great moments. Jack Clark, as I mentioned, and ultimately they had a lot of injuries, unfortunately for them, in their striker positions. But they still scored enough goals kind of around the rest of the team. As I say, Patterson had a great season. O'Neill as well. I should say O'Neill. I mean O'Nien, I should say. Ex-Watford player as well, Luke O'Nien, and he had quite a good season, I thought. So look, Sunderland, really, really impressive to finish in 6th. And fair play, this is the worst prediction, way worse so far. So not a good one. Yeah, just the 12 places out, but we move. Let's see what else I said for 17th spot.
Moving on then to 17th, we're going to say Huddersfield. Now, Huddersfield, obviously, last season, pretty gutting to lose that playoff final. But at the same time, I just think with them, they really have fallen away a little bit. And I think, that Huddersfield, I don't know, I say they've fallen away, but it's just Danny Schofield, what is he going to do? They could go for playoffs, but I don't know. It's a tricky one. I can't lie. It's a tricky one. But that's where we're going to put them.
Look, I'll absolutely take all credit for this one. A lot of people would have said Huddersfield, they're going to have a decent enough season. I don't know if anyone really thought they would be as bad as they were, but I did have them in 17th. And look, only one place out. You know, I had a place up for them than what was the reality. And ultimately, it was a horrid season for them. So when you factor in the fact that they were so poor, and yet they finished 18th, which was comfortably safe, what a job. What a job that was done by Neil Warnock coming in. And when people saw that appointment, they were like, oh, here we go again. You know, you saw it with Watford in the 21-22 season. They bring in this manager, 75 years old. Let's take him out of retirement. Let's put him back in the job and, you know, just kind of hope the shoes fits the size. And you thought, oh, well, you know, ex-Huddersfield, you know, he's returning again, Warnock. Has he really got it left in him? Has he really? Can he do it again? He's done it to so many clubs. You know, got them promoted or kept them up or whatever. He's got that championship nous, and he's done it again. He's done it again. It's what he does. It's what he does, Neil Warnock. It's fantastic. You know, he finds ways to motivate a group of players to get the job done. So incredible, really, Huddersfield. I mean, they had some really good players across the season. Like I was talking about Karoma earlier. You know, he was really good for most of it. And, you know, they had a few issues kind of leaking goals. But look, at the end of the day, they did what they needed to. An 18th spot. So I'm very happy with that prediction, to be honest. Only one place out. Let's see what else I said for coming up. So coming up now, we have got the next position to predict. And that, in fact, was 16th place. So let's see what I said for 16th place. So the reality of it was Stoke. So I'll just get you up to speed with that. Sorry, I've just lost my place on the video, so bear with. Yeah, so 16th spot. It was Stoke, but what are we saying in reality from the predictions we did?
In 16th spot, though, we're going to go for Stoke City. Now,
oh, he's only gone and done it. Come on. Now, okay, I've got a bit lucky here with the goal differences because you look at 3 teams on 53 points and Stoke are the one that are above them on 16 because of the goal difference. But look, I don't care. We take it. We absolutely take it. A bang-on prediction for the Stoke. Look, I look at this and think I was always going to put them around this kind of 13th to 18th spot because ultimately Stoke have just been kind of a bit of a stagnant team in the Championship the last kind of few seasons. You know, since their relegation in 2018 from that 17-18 season, they've just not really been able to get in the strong enough squad to push for the playoffs, but equally a weak enough team for them to be in too much bother with relegation. I mean, they had Alex Neil for a period. Yeah, it's not been brilliant, to be honest. It's not been brilliant for Stoke, to put it lightly. It's kind of been a bit of a frustrating season for them. But look, I got this bang on the money, so thank you very much, Stoke. You did exactly what I thought you would, and 16th spot, so love it.
Stoke, fair enough. They've recruited Joe Allen and Dwight Gale. Sorry, not Joe Allen. They've left Joe Allen. But, you know, I feel like Stoke, they're a good enough team, but they're still going to flirt with relegation. Moving on then to...
So, let's move on. What are we saying next for 15th spot for the Championship?
16th spot.
15th.
And this is where we're going to put a bit of Cardiff. Now,
I'm such a noob, honestly. I said 16th spot again. I just did 16th. Just chill out, mate. No. What I'm saying is, for 15th, we went for Cardiff. And look, you have to scroll down a little bit here. Not a great prediction, because I just didn't see them ever really looking a team floating with relegation, but they really did struggle. They really did struggle. Under the management of Morrison, they just didn't quite get going, did they? And then they brought in a manager right towards the end of the season, and he did the job. He kept them up just about. So yeah, fair play. Ultimately, right, I look at this and think it was a bad season for Cardiff, and it really surprised me. I thought they were going to have enough. I mean, look, some of their players, you think, okay, they've had a few kind of players there for a long time that haven't been amazing, like, you know, the likes of Joe Rawls, he's done quite well, but he's not sold the world alight, to be honest. And then you've got like Perry and G. You've got Shea Ojo. Ojo, to be fair, has been decent, but yeah, interesting enough. They just conceded far too many goals. It's as simple as that. And Cedric Keepray, to be fair, had a few goals from set pieces. Romain Sawyers did decent, but then they brought in Robinson, who I thought actually was a really good acquisition from West Brom, and he got a couple of goals, looked really lively, and then got injured, and that was a real unlucky one there for Cardiff. Sorry, Kaba had a great season, to be fair, and they brought in Connor Wickham, which, he's towards the end of his career, so kind of struggled a little bit. And then recently they've just brought in Bournemouth player Jack Simpson. So look, there's not too bad signings here, but generally it was a pretty bad season for Cardiff City. So they'll need to tighten up next season, that is for sure. But to be honest, it's not a great prediction because I just didn't see them in the relegation places, in terms of the picture of the relegation fight. But that's where they were, finishing just enough points to stay up. And, fair play, 5 points was actually not that tight in the end. But look, ultimately, when you factor in Reading's, deducted points, that kind of plays into it. It might have been a lot tighter, really, than it turned out. So, not great, that prediction, to be honest, to have that 6 places out. But look, we move on to the next place, 14th.
Cardiff. Do I think they're going to stay up? Yes. But are they filling me with lots of confidence? No, not really.
At least I back them to stay up.
Because
that's close enough.
The pressure is still on. They only just stayed up last season under Steve Morrison, and it's pressure for them to gel. They're going to try and go for the playoffs, but I think they're going to fall short. Moving on to 15th, though, this is where we're going to go for a little bit of Preston.
Now, Preston in 15th, to be honest, I look at this and think, interesting, because how can it be 15th when I've just talked about 15th for Cardiff? Just, so many errors in this video. I apologise for people. But at the time, I was like, no, there's no problem. No problem at all. So what I meant to say was 14th for Preston. And they ended up finishing 12th. So I will take that as a victory, to be honest. I always look at Preston and think, on their day, they can be brilliant. But they don't often get a run of wins going. And they started the season really toothless. They were just defensively really hard to get past, but then not scoring enough goals. And they had a kind of few players like Scott Sinclair, they had a few seasons back, and I think good player. And then they have a couple of other players like Ched Evans who think sometimes he can get goals, but they don't light the world alight, to be honest. It's just that they do enough each season, and that's why I thought they'll probably finish about middle of the road, probably about 14th. And 12th spot, they were at one stage maybe in a kind of outside chance of playoffs, but then just kind of fell away towards the end. But not a bad season, 12th spot, to be honest. They finished on the same points as Watford. You look at Watford, obviously, different expectations going into the season. A very, very bad season. But Preston maybe thought they would maybe flirt with playoffs, and then anything under that, they'll kind of accept. And that's exactly what happened. It was a bit under that. So maybe a kind of expected season for Preston. But look, that's where they finish in 12th place. And, that's not bad from me. 2 places out.
Preston last season, it was a bit ropey, I'm not going to lie. There was points where I thought they're not going to get through. They're not going to stay up. But, Ryan Lowe did well after coming in for Frankie McAvoy. But it's a rebuilding process. Releasing 13 players in May is going to have an impact. Obviously, Ben Woodburn, Robbie Brady have come in. But I think the Lily Whites might struggle because it's just such a competitive division. So they'll probably try and stay up. They'll take safety. And that's where I think they're going to finish. Moving on then to 14th.
And I should say this is actually 13th, so ignore me.
I think we've just done 15th. 14th spot, though, we're going to go for Preston.
No, I just talked about Preston. You are actually having an absolute nightmare, mate. My old self, I don't know what was happening. Sorry, people. No, what I really wanted to say there was 13th spot, Bristol City. So let's talk about them. So they're finishing 14th, only 1 place out. We love that. Again, getting good with these predictions now. Bristol City obviously had a leaky season, but not as leaky as some of the teams around them. 56 goals, all right, it's not great. The problem they really had was scoring that many goals. But 55, is not too shabby. So look, it was just kind of a very average season for Bristol City. There was kind of points where I thought, they're on a bad run of results, and Nigel Pearson might struggle here. But they did enough, and as I said earlier, they had a kind of good few players Nahki Wells is always a Bristol City legend. Zach Viner had a good season. They also had, other players like, I think Casey Palmer obviously went to Coventry, so that was an interesting one. But people like Andreas Weimann, always a big kind of presence in that team. Andy King as well came in. Jay De Silva as well. So look, they had some decent players. It was just not a spectacular season. It was just kind of a bit of a meh season for Bristol City. So look, I thought they would finish 14th. They finished. I thought they would finish 13th. They finished 14th. I'm pretty happy with that prediction, to be honest. Let's see what we said then for 12th.
No, I just did Preston. Bristol City, sorry. Bristol City are going to finish here, in my opinion. Bristol City, obviously, last season were a bit ropey under Nigel Pearson, but they did enough. I just think, there is a bit more optimism now with, Jason Newell coming in. I think they're going to do okay. 13th spot, though.
Should be 12th.
We're going to say Queen's Park Rangers. Now,
so in 12th spot then, we went for QPR. And in 12th spot was Preston. So we kind of got Preston and QPR. QPR actually ended up finishing quite low down. I mean, maybe we should have not had QPR. But what I mean is, like, Cardiff and Preston were basically the wrong way around. Although Preston did finish. Now, to be fair, I'm chatting absolute waffle here, to be honest. No, the point is, what I'm saying is, I thought that in 12th spot, I thought QPR would be quite decent, and it didn't go to plan. It really didn't for QPR. Michael Beale, at the start of the season, you thought, yep, this guy looks pretty decent, to be fair. He'll do a job. Then it went all wrong. He left the club, and it was like, oh, okay. He wasn't there very long. Like, everyone doing, the start of the season, like Michael Beale memes, like I've got nothing left, like Ian Beale from EastEnders. And that's what they had when they had to sack him. They couldn't find a manager, but he went off to Rangers. It didn't quite go to plan for him. Celtic once again dominant in that Scottish Premiership. But in terms of QPR, you think, oh, who are they going to get? And then right at the end of the season, when their backs against the wall, they're getting Gareth Ainsworth, and you think, oh well, is that a risk? Can he do it? And he did it. Fair play. They played for him. They did it for him, and they did enough. And it looked up to a point where they were really a decent sized club in London that is going underwater here. But they did enough to stay up. And a similar situation really to Cardiff. It got to the point where they got in a new manager and they just about did enough. So fair play to QPR. But yeah, not good for my predictions really. 8 spots out with this one.
The reason for that is, I think, decent appointment in Beale, not Ian Beale, I'm afraid to say. But they've got a strong team. They've looked decent in pre-season, to be fair. And, he did some good stuff, Beale, with Gerrard at Rangers and Villa. But I think they're going to finish mid-table. So 13th there. 12th, I'm going to say Swansea in 12th because...
So this should be 11th, really. So with this position, I actually did go with Swansea. And look, when you think about it, Swansea were always a team that were going to kind of flirt with playoffs, not necessarily guaranteed, but they finished 10th. So again, it's another accurate prediction. Like, we've not been perfect, to be honest. Like, it's been far from that, these predictions so far, but we did get Stoke bang on. But there's just been a few where it's been like, oh, sensible stuff. Only 1 or 2 places out. We'll take it. And Swansea's another one of those. So, look, I did have them in 11th. I think I saw Swansea and thought, well, under Russell Martin, can they push on? Can they have a strong season? They had points where they went on nice runs of wins, but it was just about that consistency. That was the problem for them, and they couldn't quite do enough really to mount much of a playoff chase in the end of the season. But Pirro was, really good. He's been their star player really. And yeah, fair play Swansea. So not a bad prediction for me. I'll take that.
Look, last season they weren't great. I can't lie. This season they could finish top half, maybe playoffs. There's a chance of that, but I don't know. I just feel like it's going to take a big effort. And last season Russell Martin kind of struggled a little bit. Allen's come back, obviously. They're going to go for it. They're they're only playoff finalists a couple seasons ago, and obviously they're trying to get over that heartbreak. But I think they're going to be strong. So they could be fit higher up. They could be lower down, but I'm putting them there.
They were only just higher up, one place than what I said, which was 11th.
So that was 13th, I think, wasn't it? Or was it 12th? No, it was 12th. So in 11th then...
So then, again, I'll reiterate, in 10th place, I keep getting all these numbers mixed up, but that's how I actually did predict it in the end. 10th spot, who did I go for?
We're going to go for Luton. Now...
Oh, this is the one that fills me with the most pain. Oh, dearie me. Now, no, look, I say this, right? I wasn't saying that Luton were going to get relegated, because I think I said that last season, and everyone got absolutely, pelted me for it. Because of the rivalry, that kind of swayed my decision-making. But last season, before the start of the 21-22 season, I thought Luton, yeah, they'll be all right, but they won't be amazing. They'll stay up. Or no, I think I said they'd go down because they weren't looking amazing. But the way that they ended that 21-22 season, they were doing quite well, and everyone was like, oh my days, this is Luton are punching above their weight, fair play. Going into this season then, when Watford had got relegated from the Prem, and I was hoping, fingers crossed, for a promotion, I was like, okay, Luton, fair enough, you did all right this season. Going to this new season, I'm hoping Watford get automatics, and Luton, I don't want to see you anywhere near promotion, because if Watford are going one way and that's to the Premier League, I can't see Luton going the other way. I wouldn't like it. Not just because I just don't like it, but I just don't see it. I think Watford have been in the Premier League for a few seasons recently. They're strong enough to be higher than Luton, who have just kind of not quite had enough to get the promotion place confirmed. So then what I end up doing is I kind of think, okay, fair enough, Luton, good last season, but you're not going to quite get the playoffs, the 10th spot. That's a fair prediction, right? What ends up happening is Watford, an absolute total letdown, as per usual, under Gino Pozzo and the ownership, who decide to go back on their word and who claim that they will back Rob Edwards and they will stick to their decision come hell or high water. Those are the words from CEO Scott Duxbury. And we're going to get behind Rob Edwards. We're really going to back him. He had a great season with Forest Green Rovers. So we're going to get back this young progressive manager, and it's going to be different. We're going to take things differently this season. Well, what Watford owners do, they do the exact same thing that everyone thinks that they're going to, and they go back on their word. They really just kind of tarnish what's already a sinking ship of a reputation of a football club, and they just yet again, the kind of audacity to do it again, and only 11 games into a season. Like, I don't care about promotion. Keep us in the Championship if it means we actually change our management system, our structure, our culture of the football club. But no, the Pozzos do what they do, and they just don't care. And I'm sure they care about the football club, but they just need to realise that what they've been doing these last 5 or 6 seasons has not worked, and they need to change. It's as simple as that. So Rob Edwards, you get sacked, you think, okay, sorry, it's another one bites the dust. But then who did he join? Luton Town. Yes, Luton Town. And Luton get promoted to the Premier League for the first time via the playoffs, where we should have at least been, and it's with our former manager managing our biggest rivals. I mean, you just cannot write this. You just cannot write it. It's a season of pain for Watford fans, with the salt rubbed in the wound right towards the end, where you think, okay, at least have the consolation of them not going above us in the divisions. But no, when Watford have often been the team doing better, Luton have been in our shadow for so many seasons. Luton in the National League not long ago, and they find a way into the Premier League, and it's all testament to Rob Edwards. I've got to give credit to Luton. They had a great season, and not that their squad necessarily is fantastic, because it's not, let's be honest, but they were just better than the sum of their parts. And then Watford were the complete opposite. They were worse than the sum of their parts. They had great players on the pitch when you look at player by player, but they didn't work as a team. They didn't battle as a team. They didn't die for the shirt. Whereas Luton, they did just that. And that was it. They did enough. And they finished third. Fantastic season. They could have even got automatic, but they fell away a bit at the end. But they get through the playoffs and they win it. And look, I've just got to say, Gino Pozzo, you're a fool, because you back Rob Edwards at the start of the season. You don't then back him when the things don't suit you and it starts to go a bit pear-shaped, which it was. Let's be honest about the situation. Watford fans know how poorly we were playing in those games under Rob Edwards. But just look at the long-term goal of that football club and work out what's more important, knee-jerk decisions or a sustainable future. And at least Edwards might have had time to then implement, later on his style. But no, it never got to that point because the Edwards, sacking meant, it just didn't happen. They were too trigger happy. So, yeah, fair play, Luton. I hate to say it, but fair play. I have to give you credit for once. You did well to defy the odds. And the fact that club is going to be in the Premier League for the first time, it does make me feel a bit queasy, I'll be honest. Let's hope they go straight back down from a rivalry perspective. And the fact that stadium entrance, the away entrance, is going to be in the Premier League, it's going into someone's back garden. It doesn't seem right. But fair enough, Luton Town beating Coventry in the final, and it's the most dramatic of ways on penalties. So it was a tight match. They just did about enough. So yeah, fair enough, Luton. I got this one wrong. 10th spot is what I went for, but they ended up with finishing 3rd. What a season. So 7 places out, not great at all.
I don't really want to put them that high up, I can't lie. But at the same time, they were pretty decent last season. Fair enough. Yeah, they were pretty decent. They did some good business last season. They got playoffs last season. Just got to say fair play. But they're not getting promotion. No chance.
Yeah, I really regret being that emphatic in my decision making. I really do. Might have cursed myself there. But anyway, we move. What are we saying for 9th?
Then we move into 10th spot.
No, 9th.
And this is where we're going to go for a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people will have them higher up. But I just think they're not going to do that well this season. I've just got this bad feeling. And that is West Brom.
Yes, boys, let's go. We did it again. We got it for Stoke and we've done it again for West Brom. We went for 9th spot. And I know I said 10th in the video, but as I say, I made that kind of mess with the whole City prediction. So everything was pushed back 1. So bang on the money. Beautiful stuff. West Brom in 9th spot. Now, look, there was a point where I thought West Brom, they're really going to be a team that challenge for this playoff place. And to be honest, they just never quite filled me with massive confidence. But at the start of the season, they actually played quite well. They had some good football. They made it quite tricky for us in that opening away game of the season. What a goal from Ismail Assar. That's got to be championship goal of the season for sure. But ultimately, West Brom were a hard team to play against. And they started off, they were doing some good stuff. Steve Bruce, though, I just think was a bit of an interesting appointment. I just don't think it ever really worked. And then West Brom, they go through a few phases. They go up, have ups and downs. It just was a weird season for West Brom. I can't lie. It was never quite a season where I thought, yeah, that team is definitely looking like a Premier League side. I mean, they brought in Nathaniel Chalobah, of course, ex-Watford man. Daryl Dike had a decent season, especially Jed Wallace, who is now moved on from Millwall and he's done well there. But it just wasn't quite spectacular enough for West Brom. Carlin Grant as well got a few goals, but nothing amazing. So it was just a kind of decent, but not quite enough to push for the playoffs kind of season for West Brom. And that's where I thought they would finish, really. So, yeah, that's another correct position after Stoke. Lovely stuff. Let's see what we said about West Brom.
Now, sure, they've got some good players in, like Swift. They have Steve Bruce at the helm. But I just don't feel it's going to happen for West Brom this season. I've just got this bad feeling. There's a lot of expectation. Look, at the end of the day, they're going to go for the playoffs, but I just think they're going to fall short. Okay, moving on to 9th spot then.
And I say, once again, moving on to 8th spot. So yes, I say about West Brom, they will go for the playoffs. They weren't that far off. You look at the teams like Preston, like Norwich, like Watford, like Swansea, where they were never really in the playoff race. There was a point where a couple of games to go, you thought maybe if West Brom make it kind of a really late push, they might sneak in, but they just didn't quite get the job done to be in the real relegation battle. The real playoff battle to kind of be a main kind of competitor in it. But in terms of 8th spot, what do we say? We went for...
In 9th position...
8th, I mean.
We are going to say a little bit of Coventry.
Now,
yeah.
I don't mind this, to be honest. I know it's on paper not ideal because you look at where Coventry ended up. Okay, 4 places out is not ideal because I just didn't see Coventry getting playoffs. I just didn't see it. Maybe it was just kind of I'd seen Coventry do well previous seasons under, the management of Mark Robins, and thought, yeah, they'll probably have another season where they're like good enough, but not quite good enough to be in the playoffs. But yeah, to be honest, this is not too shabby, because Coventry were a team that I thought weren't getting playoffs quite late into the season, right? So this just shows kind of the level of Watford's incompetence, really, in the kind of latter stages. Even though they had such a terrible turmoil season of 3 managers and it was all really bad, it ended up where, they had that game away to Coventry. I think it was on Easter Monday. And you kind of thought, well, all right, it's not been great. Put a pin in this season. Just take me home sort of thing. But Coventry were at a point where they were really kind of not quite at the pace of the playoff place. And they were just looking unlikely. And in that same game, they drew with us. And I was like, okay, fair enough. It's 2 teams that won't probably get in the playoffs. And then after that Watford game, Coventry went on an amazing run, right? And it just shows if players believe in a system and try and show a bit of passion, then they can get the job done. But Watford went the complete opposite way, and despite the kind of unlikeliness of it all, Coventry managed to sneak into the playoff spot. So, and I think the week after that as well, it was quite near after that, Sunderland faced Watford. Again, same thing I thought. Sunderland, there's probably an unlikely chance they sneak into the playoff place, and they did just that with that win against Preston on the final day. So look, it was just like one of those things. Watford, just bottle jobs. But ultimately, Coventry, it was a fantastic season for them, and I did put them a bit lower, but fair play. Gyökeres was superb all season. Got to say as well, shout out to Wilson in goal. Ben Wilson had a great season. Did get the goalkeeper kind of golden glove of the season. We'll get onto my golden glove prediction in a bit. But look, what a season for Coventry, and so unlucky, I think, to miss out to that final against Luton. It was on penalties. It's never nice to go out in that way. And Gustavo Haima was very, very upsetting the way he went off with that injury. So look, I think Coventry will count themselves very unlikely. They'll go again in 23-24 to get that promotion place, but it's going to be tough next season. There's a lot of big clubs, like Leeds, Leicester, Norwich will go again, Middlesbrough. How they didn't get promoted, I don't know. So it's one of those things. It's going to be another tough season, but they just fell short ultimately. So look, I'll take that. I'm pretty happy with that prediction. Coventry to finish in the place they did, only 3 places out from what I said in 8th, so decent enough. We move on to 7th spot.
Yeah, you heard that right. Coventry. I think Coventry are one of those teams, they really do surprise you. I mean, last season, fair play, 12th. That's strong. That's really strong. So I don't think 9th is outrageous. I think it's decent. 8th spot now.
Okay, I'll reiterate. I said 8th spot for Coventry, but 7th spot now.
And this is where we're going to go for Blackburn.
Oh, he's only gone and done it. Oh, my days. This guy, I'm just too good. Now, when I get to my Premier League predictions that we'll do, I think, on Sunday, for reacting to that, it's a bit more unfortunate. But these Championship predictions, I tell you, I've bossed it to not get that many bad ones with a few kind of places out, but then to get 3 bang-on places so far. Stoke, West Brom, and now Millwall. Oh, I tell you what, that is lovely. Back-to-back as well. Millwall in 8th. That is a great shout from us. No, hang on. Sorry. What am I on about? I meant Blackburn. Sorry. I did say Blackburn. I said Millwall, but I meant Blackburn. We were talking about 7th, and that's what we went for. Blackburn Rovers. So, yeah, really nice stuff. Another correct one. What did I say specifically about Blackburn, though?
Now, the reason I say Blackburn is they've been so close so many seasons.
And yet again, they were so close on goal difference. They couldn't quite get that playoff place. Despite a really good win, I think they did end up winning. Did they, or was it a draw? No, it was a draw against Millwall on the final day. And you thought... The funny thing was, you thought it was in Millwall's hands. They'll get the job done. They'll win that game at home. They go ahead in the game, and Blackburn to peg it back. What an amazing match. And that kind of made you think, oh, well, okay, if Millwall not going to get it, then that means surely Blackburn can sneak in. But yet Sunderland win, and that means that on goal difference they get in. So really unlucky Blackburn to not get in that playoff spot. That for a lot of weeks they looked a dead cert to be in there, especially Millwall, who, as I say, were a bit more of a commending position before the final day. But Blackburn will count themselves really unlucky to not be in there, to be honest, because how many kind of weeks of the season were they in that top four, even that top six? You know, they were sat 4th, 5th for a lot of the season. So it's an unfortunate one for Blackburn. They had a few great players, you know, along the way. Your likes of Brendan Brereton Diaz, who played his final season there. So look, really unlucky for them, but they'll go again next year for sure. So yeah, another correct one in 7th.
I feel like something's got to give. Admittedly, they flirted with the playoffs last season, and that was all they did. So maybe this is a good prediction in 8th, but I wonder about, you know, the departure of Lenihan. That's a big hole. I just think they need to get good players in. It's as simple as that. But that's what I'm going for. 8th spot. 7th, to just miss out on the...
So this is 6th, to just get into the playoffs, I should say.
Playoffs. Now, this would be gutting for your team, if you supported them.
6th spot.
It's a tricky one. To be honest, I'm forgetting about which teams I've actually said and which I haven't. So just bear with me, people. Have I said Queen's Park Rangers? Yeah.
Yes, I have. You absolute plonker. Now, I can tell you, in fact, in 6th place, I put Millwall. So, look, right, it's not too bad. I will take it. Ultimately, right, I looked at Millwall and thought, they're a club that are, you know, fairly big club. And for many seasons, have just not quite had enough to kind of mount enough of a playoff charge. And I thought this year, it would be their year. And based off, you know, the standings going into the final day, I think Millwall were sat in 6th, I think, with Coventry in 5th. Maybe it was the other way around, but they were definitely in the playoff places, right? And how they managed to, from a winning position, not win that final game, you know, it's baffling. It really is baffling. I mean, I look at that. It does say win their final game, and Millwall's recent results, right? It says they won their last game, which is a bit confusing because their game against Blackburn, they actually did lose. So I don't know what I was on about there. I think I said a draw, but no, they ended up losing. That's their most recent game. That's why. Sorry. No, what I was going to say was all they needed to do was win that game, and they went 3-1 up. And it's incredible that they didn't win it in the end. So look, I'll count myself really unlucky with that one, with that prediction. 6th spot for Millwall, only 2 places out, but close enough, right? I just thought they would sneak in. They didn't quite get the playoffs, but I think I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. So let's go forward a little bit, and let's see what we then said for 5th spot after the 6th position. Yeah, so I'm just going to skip across this video, sorry, because I've just realised that basically, whilst I was doing the video, I realised at the point that I'd just made a lot of errors. So we don't want to play that out for you because, you know, just waste time otherwise. So instead, we're going to hop straight to 5th position. And then, yeah, let's see what we said for that 5th spot. Here we go. Middlesbrough in 6th. In 5th, Sheffield United. No, so yeah, so if you didn't catch that, let me just play it again just to make sure you have got all the kind of things you need there.
Then we move on to 6th.
So that obviously is 5th because of the way that the playoffs predictions have gone. So in 5th,
I'm going to say Middlesbrough.
To be honest, Middlesbrough in 5th, I'll take that. They ended up in 4th. That's only 1 place out. Decent again. I mean, the consistency for me has been pretty impressive on this. I can't lie. So, yeah, Middlesbrough. Oh, dear. How they didn't get in the playoffs, in the playoff final at least, right? But, no, what I was going to say was how they didn't get automatic, right? Because there was a long time for Sheffield United towards the end of the season where they started to kind of fall away and you thought, oh, they're going to bottle it now. They're going to bottle it now. And Middlesbrough were just a winning machine under Michael Carrick. Like, what an amazing job he did, right? And it definitely didn't start well under Chris Wilder. And then, of course, Wilder goes to Watford and it doesn't do well. But look, it's funny. It's funny how Middlesbrough, they start the season and they think they might even get relegated. And they find an amazing way to kind of bounce back. They have the rest of the season. They play really well. And they have some amazing talents, right? Akpom, top scorer this season, Golden Boot winner. What a player he was. You know, loaning signing of Cameron Archer from Aston Villa. Brilliant addition. You know, so many good players in that Middlesbrough team, and yet they still don't get promoted. They'll count themselves so unlucky that they somehow managed to... I just don't even know how they managed to do it, really. to lose that Coventry game in the first semi-final and in the second semi-final, I should say. So, yeah, it was a crazy one, really, when you think of that being at home as well. 0-0, you'd fancy them. But no, fair play Coventry. But Middlesbrough, I'll take that. Only one place out. Not too shabby. We just had them one place lower down than they actually finished.
And 6th. In 5th...
So again, I'll reiterate, in 4th, we went for...
Sheffield United.
Look, right, this is, again, not too shabby. I didn't think they'd get automatic, though. I genuinely didn't. I thought, under Heckingbottom, he's done some good stuff with them the last couple of years, but I didn't think they were quite ready for that step up, because I thought there were a few other teams that were definitely getting automatic. How wrong I was. But look, Sheffield United, what a season, right? Because they get relegated in 20 to 21. You think, okay, it's going to be a tough one to get straight back up, I should say. They can't do that, fair enough. But this season, they've gone up another level, right? With the likes of Iliman and Jai, with the likes of James McAtee, also the likes of, I'm trying to remember the other one now, Tommy Doyle, that's it, from Man City. So, like, some good signings from big teams. You hear, you know, decent season for Sheffield United. So they can be very, very proud of their success. And to get automatic, although it did look for a point, like I said, with Middlesbrough shaking them down, they did have a sort of bad end to the season. But they got the job done, right? They got the job done. And fair play Sheffield United. They are back in the Premier League, the Blades. And it's good to see. So, yeah, good prediction. We'll take that. Let's see if I've got anything else to say, really.
4th.
No, I don't. Very quickly, it's as simple as I do not have anything else to say. So I said 4th. What I meant was 3rd. In 3rd place, we went for...
Burnley.
Okay, all right. Again, another two out. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal, right? Did I see Burnley getting the championship? No, I didn't. I'll be honest, because as soon as I thought, Burnley going down this season under the management of Michael Jackson, I thought, well, you know, there was a bit of a bad move to get rid of Sean Dyche. I know they struggled, but Dyche is the man, right? I thought they would really struggle because of the kind of financial problems they had going on into that championship season, but that never really reared its ugly head. I also thought they would struggle to keep a lot of their players, which, to be honest, was the truth. Like, they did have a lot of turnout. They had a lot of players that left, but they kept kind of the key players, like Ashley Barnes, right? For championship level, he's very decent. For the likes of Brownhill, the likes of, you look at other players that kind of solid Burnley players, like Jack Cork, for instance, right? These kind of Burnley legends in their eyes, right? But then they kind of made a few really clever additions, right? Nathan Teller is one of them. What a season he had. Really, really good signing. But also some like surprising additions, like Ian Matson. Like, where did he come from? But he's an absolute baller. So Burnley, really good business. And ultimately the key one is Vincent Kompany, right? Great appointment, because I didn't see that coming. I did not see him coming to Burnley. I mean, they confirmed it quite early after the kind of relegation. But look, what a job Vincent Kompany did, right? At Anderlecht, he wasn't brilliant at Anderlecht, his former side. But at Burnley, just took it up another level. And fantastic season for Burnley. So, look, I'll take that, right? 3rd spot. I thought they would get top 3. They did just that. And I think I might have said, I can't remember who I said was going to go up through the playoffs in my kind of 3rd to 6th of Burnley, Borough, Sheffield United and Millwall. But in the end, I did have Burnley highest up of all the playoff teams. Instead, they were the highest up of all the automatic teams. And finishing that title, what a season, 101 points, just fair play. But yeah, let's see what else we had to say about Burnley.
3rd?
Nope, nothing else. So, in 2nd, I should say, I actually went for, as embarrassing as this is now, Watford, right? It's not just blind club optimism. It's not just club bias there. It's genuine, looking at the squad that we had, it wasn't that bad. At the start of the season, right, we had Dennis, Pedro, and Sarr. And you thought, wow, that is going to be dreamy for the first game against Sheffield United. And it pretty much was, right? That opening link-up goal with the lovely breakaway goal, nice from Ngakia, then it's out to wide. Ismaila Sarr has it, and you think, yeah, that's just brilliant. And then he gets it out over to Dennis, and Dennis switches it across the box. And you think, yep, lovely football from Watford. And then the ball comes in Joao Pedro comes in, steaming in, and nutmegs the goalkeeper. Lovely goal. What a finish. What a start to the season. The place is bouncing on a Monday night. We get a point against West Brom where we probably should have lost. That's a decent result. And then we beat Burnley, who looked like a team that could be hard to play against this season. So it looks like a really good season. And then it all goes to pot. It all goes to pot. And that first defeat, I think it was QPR, it just all really went downhill from there. Really, really bad. And Edwards gone. You think, okay, there was logic to it because we were playing terribly, terribly. But as I say with earlier, we should have looked at the bigger picture. In comes Slaven Bilic. You think, okay, fair enough. He got them West Brom promoted. That'll do wonders, hopefully. And it took a while for the Slav to kind of get his kind of imprint. He did win that really good away game at Stoke. We beat Luton as well, and that was a really good, gutsy performance for one of the few occasions all season. But then we just went on a really bad run of terrible, terrible, terrible results. And Slaven Bilic, maybe he was... I don't like to say this because I don't think we should be sacking managers as regularly as we do, but maybe he wasn't given enough time, right? Maybe he wasn't, but you could look at it and think maybe he should have been sacked sooner because when Wilder came in, it was too little too late, right? But the problem should be put to the players because there's just that wrong attitude at the club right now and there's just a lot of passengers and that's the problem. So look, Wilder came in, it was a bit of a kind of lost cause already, but it got, to the point where they just didn't have enough in the tank, Watford, and just not a good season at all. A lot of change, a lot of problems with the culture of that football club, and something needs to change because we've now got in Valérien Ismaël, just like Bilic, got West Brom, experience. Did well at Barnsley, it's got to be said, Ismaël. Not too well at West Brom, and not too well recently, actually, with Besiktas. So I'm unsure about Ismaël, but I'm hopeful that he's the man that changes things. And, he's at least got an attacking formation, a 4-3-3, he's got an identity. But whether or not Watford bring in players in the window to actually suit that identity and have Ismaël a bit of the reins, that's just not how Pozzo works. So I'm not that hopeful, to be honest, about next season. I could see us finishing another very bang average mid-table, like 13th again. And we finished 11th this season. To be honest, that was quite good considering we were looking at like 15th at one point. So it was a really bad season. I really hope I'm proven wrong, but next season could be another one of misery. But anyway, very, very, very bad in the predictions. We finished in 11th, and that was 9 places off what actually happened. So yeah, not good at all with our prediction of automatic. And then in title race, what did we say for the title?
Third place.
I should say first place.
I'm going to say...
I'm chatting absolute waffle here, sorry.
Did I say QPR? I don't think I did.
I did say QPR. What am I on about? Stop chatting waffle.
Basically, what I'm saying is I've got through all of the teams eventually, but the order I've said them in, even if it's been a bit jumbled. So, let's imagine I said, I don't know, Huddersfield in 18th, but then if I've said Huddersfield again later on, then you take it as 18th.
Honestly, I don't know what I was drinking on that day. On the 25th of July, I was on one. But no, what I was going to say was, we did go for Norwich in top. Not a great prediction, I'll be honest, because they ended up having a bad season, and even worse than Watford. So 13th. So this is a pretty stonking one, to be honest. 12 places out, this one. I just don't know where it went wrong for Norwich. They just didn't get any goals. And, that was a big problem, really. I thought Pukki would be another good one. Not his best season, and obviously leaving it at the end of this season... it's going to be a blow for them next season. But it all went wrong really under Dean Smith. They didn't get any momentum. They bring in Daniel Farke, and he didn't really get the ship going either. So, yeah, not a good season for Norwich. So that's how we end things. Not a great kind of end to that with Watford and Norwich, those bad predictions. But look, we'll take those 3 correct positions. I think it was 3 in the end. Because, Blackburn, Stoke and West Brom, as far as I'm aware, that's decent, right? Across the season, it's quite hard to get, 1 or 2, but to get 3, very decent stuff. So that's how we ended up with the table predictions. And very quickly, I know this has been a long one, but thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. We are just going to run you through what my predictions were in terms of the kind of Golden Glove and all that stuff. So let's see what I said. I think this is what I went for.
Team, etc., in the order, then it will sort itself out. But let me talk about my top scorer prediction. Now, I think Watford's top scorer
Right.
is going to be Joao Pedro.
Okay, this is at least something, right? I got this right. Joao Pedro, star boy, JP10. What a guy, right? It's so emotional, but we have to let him go because he's just too good for us, right? This guy is just, he could go on to play for a Champions League team. Now he's going to be going and playing for a Europa League team this season. What a season Brighton had! It was incredible. But Pedro, he was the one shining light in a terrible Watford season. So fair play to the lad. What a brilliant career he's got ahead of him, and it's sad to see him go, but it's just inevitable. So yeah, I'm happy with that shout. I had a feeling it was Pedro, and it was.
Because, come on, who else? I think our player of the season is going to be Hassan Kamara.
Okay, that was a bad one. That was a bad one because I guess our player for the season for that reason was probably Pedro. Some shout outs though, I've got to say, to some players of the season. I mean, it's hard to say it, but maybe like Porteous, because when he did come in, he has made things better. As bad as it's been, he has been one of our best centre backs the last kind of few seasons we've actually transferred in. He had a great season. I also thought James Morris as well had a really good season. You know, he came in as a kind of left back and it did a job there, to be honest. So Hassan Kamara though, not a great season. I say right back. I really meant that for Edward, also Andrews as well. But yeah, Morris had a decent season. But Kamara, not a good season for Kamara, and he's going to be leaving, I think, to Udinese. So it's his last appearance in a Watford shirt already. Sad to see, but look, he was better really in the Premier League season. But it was just he came in January, and everyone else was trash, and he scored that goal up at Man City, and yeah, it wasn't his season, to be honest. It was a bad season.
Our young player of the season is going to be Asprilla.
Oh, okay, interesting. Asprilla, to be honest, he was really good. I was really impressed by Asprilla. He came up with a couple of goals, I think one in the end actually. But it was his performances that were really eye-catching, and he's got a lot of potential, right? It's a lot of pressure to put on the lad, right? He's so young, but he's done some really positive things this season. So he's one to watch for next season for sure. Whether he was young player of the season or not, I'm not sure. But, he was really good. He was up there, I think, in the conversation. But maybe I would still give it to either Andrews or Morris, to be honest, because they were decent. They were very, very decent.
He looked really good. The youngster, 18 years old, looks very strong. Obviously, he's not related to Faustino Asprilla. No, that's someone else. But Yasser Asprilla looks fantastic. And then surprise player of the season is always difficult because, I don't know, but I'm going to say Tom Dele-Bashiru. Now, I don't...
Okay, that was not good. That was not good because Tom Dele-Bashiru, as with every season that he seems to play for this football club, which is a real shame because I think there's a real good player in there, but he just gets injured. And it's either that or other players get transferred in the market and he's just not at the kind of top of the priority list of getting minutes in and getting game time. So it's really sad because he's a great player, right? And I also say it's really sad because I planned to have this video out at 7 o'clock and as you can see, it's a bit later, but we move, right? These things can happen, and as with Dele-Bashiru, this can happen. A player can get injured and it's just a shame, but he's certainly, for lower kind of under 21s level, he's a very capable asset. And for cup games, I suppose.
I don't know if he's going to play. I hope he does, because he's talented for sure. But he just was plagued by injuries, when he was at Watford and when he was at Reading. I think he's going to do well. If he starts, that is. If not, then it would probably be Kayembe. I think Kayembe was a bit of an underdog.
This is another one. Just like with Tom Dele-Bashiru and the fact he was always injured and it didn't go well in my prediction. It's another one that's not gone great, to be honest, Kayembe. He splits opinion, to be honest. I think he hasn't played barely any this season for a few reasons, because we've had other midfielders there. Whenever he plays Edo Kayembe, like, he didn't feature much, as I say, this season. He was more kind of played in the Premier League 21-22 season. To me, he's like he does what he says in the tin sort of player. He's a midfielder that's not spectacular, but he's decent, he's polished, but he's not a perfect player. And he did actually score, or so we thought he did, an absolute banger at home to QPR in that game we lost, and then it was ruled out controversially. But then, yeah, he didn't really get too many games. Going to next season, though, I think he can do a job. I think genuinely he should be given a chance. I quite like him when he's played, but he hasn't played regularly and he hasn't been setting the world alight. He's just a solid player. So I quite like him, but I definitely don't think he was surprise of the season. If anything, he was one of the worst players of this season. But that's not really his fault. That's just not getting the minutes and not doing as well as you'd think.
Season didn't start many games, but looked good when he played. So that's what I'm going for. But in terms of the overall championship, who's going to be top scorer?
It's the big one.
It's not going to be a Watford player, in my opinion. As much as I'd like to say, Ray Manage or Bayo, I don't think it's going to.
Oh dear, why did I even mention those two? That was the kiss of death, wasn't it? Ray Manai or Bayo. I mean, they got Bayo scored a few important goals away to Middlesbrough. At home to Middlesbrough, away to Norwich, stuff like that. But he was still a pretty bad transfer from, and also a bit of a dodgy one from the kind of Moji Bayat kind of route. But whatever. You just knew, didn't you? Like as soon as we got him from Charleroi, like we also got in. Trying to remember who it was now. It was someone quite recent. I think it was Dodi Lukebakio maybe from Charleroi. Like we just get similar players from these teams, and you just think like these players just don't ever do that well for Watford. But no, Bayo was okay. It's just he wasn't my favourite. But the other one, Manai, okay, he was a shambles of a transfer. Like this guy was supposed to be like ex-Barcelona player. Like he's supposed to be kind of a decent talent. No, he was very terrible. He was very terrible. I only got one goal, and it was a bit of a lucky goal. He just tapped it in from close range against Birmingham. It looked like a semi-goal originally, then it was given to him. So it was just, shambolic, really. A bad transfer window for most of the season for Watford. But let's move on to my Championship top scorer of the season.
I think it's going to be either Teemu Pukki.
Oh dear.
Or possibly like a player in the playoffs. So I could see there being a situation where it's a Burnley player. So therefore, it's going to be between Jay Rodriguez and maybe Swift.
Okay, this is not good, lads. I can't lie. Where's Akpom at? Like, why have I not said him? Yeah, not good. Okay, we get no points for the top scorer basically. So, I think I said John Swift in the end. I don't know what I was talking about. Like, John Swift was more of an assister.
From West Brom. Though I had West Brom pretty low. No, actually, we'll go Twine. We'll go Twine for Burnley.
Oh, Twine from Burnley, man. Okay, this guy was not a goal scorer, really. He didn't get that many goals. He got the odd goal, but no.
He's got a lot of kind of hype, and we're going to predict him as the top scorer in the Championship. Top assist in the Championship. As much as I'd like to go Hassan Kamara, it probably won't happen. So instead, we're going to go from someone from West Brom, actually. And West Brom have got a lot of good players.
And I think I actually ended up going for John Swift as the top assister, so that was wrong. In the end, I can't actually remember who it was now. I need to check that for you people. Sorry about that. Championship's top assister in the end, when it came to it, was Gyökeres. Who'd have thought, eh? The guy that's, the number 9, the main man for the striker role for Coventry is the guy that gets the most assists. I mean, I say that. Clark did also get 12 assists, as well as him. But, to be fair, I think it was a matter of... And to be fair, Gyökeres, I think, played 49 games. And Clark played 47. So, technically, I think Clark should win it, because he's played less minutes. So for that reason, I think I'm going to give it to Clark. But the point is, we didn't get it right either way. We somehow said John Swift. Not good. So that wraps up my predictions. Oh no, it doesn't. Still one more to go.
Not lie. And it's going to be an amazing achievement to finish 10th and yet have one of the top assisters. But that just shows it's going to be who I just mentioned earlier, Swift. And then we have top clean sheets. So who's going to be the most?
Goalkeeper.
For me, I think the most solid defence in the Championship this season is going to be Norwich. So therefore, who am I going to say for the most clean sheets? You guessed it, people. Norwich's City goalkeeper. And who is that? Oh, only that legend, that absolute legend that goes by the name of Tim Krul. Yeah.
Okay, this is a shambles, right? Why do we have to end the video like this? It's been such a good table prediction, and then these predictions are terrible. Like Norwich City, one of the teams that had the biggest letdown of the season, and I went for their goalkeeper. Yeah, not great. I can't lie. Fair play. It was instead, of course, Coventry's man Ben Wilson. Yeah, not great. But look, we move. That's my Championship predictions, reaction, and Gaffer.io Fantasy Championship results. I hope you have enjoyed. I know it's been a long one, but I hope you have really got your teeth into it. Just chilled out, enjoyed it. In the comment section below, I'll be really interested to see what were your Championship predictions at the start of the season. Who did you say, and how many player, positions in the table did you get bang on? And then when it came to the kind of top scorers, top assisters, clean sheets and stuff like that, who did you go for? Because I had, as you saw there, a lot of problems with those, playoff top scorer, top assister predictions. So did you have any better success? Well, let me know in the comments. But I've been Roberto the Hornet. Thanks for watching this one. Smash a like on it, and I'll see you in the next Premier League one. Bye bye.